This video is Lesson 3, Working with COMBETS, for my Craps game simulation software. This lesson is a more advanced and more aggressive betting strategy to make money utilizing the COMBETS. Now, we all have heard that Craps has the best house advantage at less than 0.5% on certain bets, those being the pass line with odds and the COMBET with odds. In the middle of every Craps table is the COM area. Often overlooked. We're going to see how we can take advantage of it. Let's drag and drop a $25 chip to the COM area, roll the dice, and see what happens. We rolled an 8, so the software moves our bet to the top portion of the number box to indicate that's our COM bet. Now, a COM bet is just like a pass line bet in that an initial roll of a 7 or an 11 is an immediate winner at 1-to-1, or 2-3-12 is an immediate loser. Any other number goes up to its point and we roll until that point is repeated. Or the 7 comes and we lose that bet. Now, just like a pass line bet, we can put odds behind our COM bet. It's the same thing. The software knows this, and if it sees a COM bet without odds, it presents a COM bet odds button on bottom left. Right-click that to set up the COM bet odds options for the way you want to play. Our choices for COM bet odds options are first max standard odds, same as the max odds button, or a more conservative 1 times the COM bet, or right in the middle 2 times the COM bet. When the system adds an odds bet, it automatically rounds up to get the correct payout ratio for that particular point. Now that we're all set up, we click the COM bet odds button and notice that the game puts a $50 odds bet behind our $25 base COM bet and shows us that in the results detail. So let's roll dice and see what happens. A 2 is a loser on our COM bet. Let's try another incoming COM bet. That found its way to a 10. Let's do the COM bet odds and put up 2 times odds on that 10. Betting another inbound COM bet, we find we hit a 10. Now, this point repeating is what aggressive COM betting is all about. It pays our initial COM bet and, importantly, the odds behind it. We keep putting up inbound COM bets to replace or make new bets. We now have a 5 in our list of COM bets. We put 2x odds behind it, put up another inbound COM bet. We keep repeating this pattern. Now we have a 6. We put 2x odds behind the 6 and another inbound COM bet and see what happens. Now some of the seeds we've planted with COM bets start to pay off. We have the 5, 6, 8, and 10 numbers covered with COM bets and their odds. The 6 pays off the bet and its odds. Let's keep going. Next we have a 4 with odds behind it, and we have every number except the 9, 5 out of 6 covered. Yet another inbound COM bet. That bet lands on the 9, the only open spot. We put 2x odds behind it and we have a situation. We've managed an unusual feat of having all 6 potential numbers covered with COM bets and odds. We keep going with inbound COM bets. Now, being that we have $475 invested in all of the numbers and knowing the 7 could come and wipe us out, this is very risky. We keep going. Winner 8. Now, that hard 8 that just came in that paid off our COM 8 and odds bet happened to be a point. That's for everybody else that's betting the pass line. We just care about each roll as it goes, being COM bettors. Now, because you can do this at a live casino in Las Vegas, my Craps game offers a COM bet odds option for on or off on the COM out bet. We see that presented in a small panel at the bottom right, COM bet odds on or off. Now, the default at live casinos is off, meaning that if the number repeats, your COM bet gets paid, your odds do not get paid, they get returned to you. And should the 7 come, your COM bet would be taken as a loss and your odds returned to you. Now, in this case, we want a more aggressive approach We're going to tell our dealer that we want our COMBETS odds on. We want to get paid if that number comes in. We're willing to risk being wiped out by the 7. Another inbound COMBET. Now we're working. Our decision to keep our COMBET odds on was a good one, as the 8 coming in again pays the 8 COMBET and its odds. Interesting to note that the previous roll was a hard 8. Had we bet that hard 8 for $10, taken its $90 payout and parlayed it, we would now have a $990 payout on a $10 bet. Our aggressive and consistent strategy of putting up a new COMBET to replace those being paid and keeping their odds up is working for us, as we have more up than we do on the table. We stay with that approach, hoping one of those 6 numbers will repeat. And so the 9 pays off for us, and we go again. Now we know the 7 is going to come. It's a matter of time, but we're up $805 and we've got $475 on the table, so we're still up either way. The 9 pays off once again, and we keep going with another inbound COMBET. Now, if all this risk was making one nervous, you could right-click on the odds and take any of the odds down at any given time. You cannot take down the base COMBET itself. That's a rule. Now we're glad we left that bet up, as it's being paid. So far we've made $1,005 in profit and have $475 on the table. We keep going. Winner 8. Now not only did this hard 8 pay off our COMBET and odds as we've been expecting, it's the 3rd hard 8 in a row. Had we parlayed the first, parlayed the second, we'd have about $9,000 in profit off a $10 bet. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Still, with over $1,000 in profit, we're doing just fine. Now, knowing that we have not seen a 7, and we know that one is coming, it might make sense to take down our COMBET odds to reduce our risk. We'll right-click on all of our odds for all 6 numbers and reduce our risk by $300 now. We go again with yet another inbound COMBET. The 9 pays us the standard $25 on the COMBET, but not the odds, since we didn't have any odds bet at risk. We decide we like getting paid odds better and hit the COMBET odds button, have the system put back all of the odds for us automatically. Yet another inbound COMBET and see what happens. We throw away a 3 and go again. We're up $11.50, we go again. Now we're up $1,275, we go again. Now we're up an even $1,400, and even if the 7 comes, we're up a lot. 7 out. Now when the 7 finally did come and wipe out all of our COMBETs, our $475 was lost. But we were up so much that we keep $975 in profit. A nice few minutes work. We've seen version 1.3 of My Craps Game for Mac OS X. The Windows version is virtually identical. In January of 2011, an iPad version of My Craps Game is expected to be released.